Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the meeting of the Town of Westford Capital Planning Committee for Friday, November 14th, 2025. Just a reminder to everyone participating that this call is being recorded. So we've got what looks like a smaller agenda today, but I'm sure it'll be as robust as any of our conversations because we just don't have the list of all the department heads going through their capital projects. But the meat of this meeting will be to review and recommend the initial capital plan to Kristen for fiscal year 27. First, we're going to go through and see if we have any updates from department heads regarding any of the capital projects that we currently have to look at, and then we'll jump into the conversation. So, Dan, do we have anybody that wants to go through and update any of the requests?
So we do have department heads here. Why don't we ask them if anybody has any new information that wasn't brought to us during their budget review? If you want to raise your hand, you can give us an update. Mark
Mark?
does.
Sure. Wait, here we go. All right. Yeah, I just for the backhoe that I was looking to purchase, I did get an estimate for trade-in, and that estimate was $24,000. And then I can't pull it up right now, but the initial number that I requested for that backhoe did not include the trade-in.
So, okay. So we'd reduce it by the 24, Dan?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can make that change.
Okay. Anything else from you, Mark?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Thank you. That's great. Anybody else? I'm not seeing any hands raised, but certainly have a minute. Please let us know if you've got anything for us.
Jeff,
I got a couple.
there's good winners out there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so just a quick update. I now have 3 quotes in hand for the boiler replacement at the Frost School. We are going to try and get this approved by Select Board on Tuesday night, and we're going to be using town lease account funds to pay for this project. But we do have 3 quotes in hand. They're all under 50K, and we plan to move forward with that project as soon as possible. We will be displacing Frost School for about a week from that building. So I'm working with Amanda Sullivan to try and figure out when the most opportune time is to do that to impact her program minimally. But that is an urgent project. One other update I wanted to provide regarding the project we talked about as far as replacing the sewer line coming out of the Abbott Elementary School. And Mark Warren could probably add a little more to this as well as Kyle, but sounds like their meeting with DEP turned up the fact that we don't have to make any immediate action on that project in the near future. So we can put that one on the shelf for the time being. So.
Yeah, that's correct. Thanks for bringing that up, Jeff. Yeah, really the actions we're going to take is to continue monitoring that situation. So at some point that, we may have to do some replacement or lining or what have you, but for now that's on hold.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Jeff. Anybody else? I'm not seeing anything. Dan, you see anybody?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay. Do you want to dive in then, Dan? You want to take control and we can go through the list?
Sure. So I sent out, I'm going to share my screen just so I can speak to this. All right. Everybody see that?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Just going to fix my window here. So we started the day with 3.14 million in free cash to fund all these projects. Taking the 132K off puts us right around 3 million even. I think the goal was to be under 3. I know we have some other expenses that'll require free cash at annual town meeting, including Medicare and possibly the solid waste collection. So why don't we go through department by department and see if anybody has any holds on any pieces of equipment or capital requests that they want to discuss further. And if any departments have any suggestions on possibly a different funding source, or if anything could be delayed, that will just give us a little bit of wiggle room. But we're not in horrible shape going into this now with that 132K. The one other project we have out there, Jeff, is the pumps for the DPW building, and so we should have some word next week on that, on the status of those, whether they're definitely urgent, need to move forward. I know the pump was a problem, so that is not included in this at this time. It's funded at $1 as a placeholder. So taking that all into consideration, why don't we go through the list? Let's start
Sounds
up
good.
top.
Yep.
All right, we have the 100K for the townwide digitization. Not that there's anything new on this, but not seeing any comments. We have IT here. It's $1,063,000 for funding 5 projects. We have the typical town and school computer replacements that we have every year, network upgrades, replacing the Wi-Fi, and replacement of the telephone system. I know Mike Wells originally presented. We have Nate Gilmet here, who's the Westford IT director. I know he spoke with Kristen, and those are all still priorities moving forward on this list. Any comments, questions? Okay, we still have the permitting system out there at $1, but we'll be looking at funding sources in the future for that once we have a few meetings. So, all right, moving on. We have public buildings. We had Jeff's presentation last week on most of these, so this should be pretty fresh in our heads. The Cameron Senior Center HVAC we had out there at $1.2 million, but still more work needed to be done there. We'll be talking with Amoresco, who is our consultant for managing these big projects here. The 51 Main Street rehab is on there at 330. That was kicked from special town meeting. All right, we got John.
Yeah, so I was in contact with Christina, and she has some concerns about the 51 Main Street, whether, this is something we really, really need to do. I mean, if you add up the whole list, there's a lot of money here. What's in that 330,000 exactly? Is it just making the building safe, or is it making the building safe and then doing more work so additional departments or some departments can move into the building?
Kick that to Mike.
Yeah, I can speak to that, and I may ask Jeff to supplement this. So basically, the bulk of that expense is to weatherize and seal the building envelope. So do the siding, do the roof. And Jeff, I believe that amount was, well, chime in. What was the amount just for the exterior stuff that really has to be done unless we want to tear the building down?
I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me, but I believe that was 227.
Yes. And then there's some interior work that is really limited to the first floor, kind of that office that used to be the communications office. That's around $44,000, Jeff.
48,000.
48,000. We would do some of that work in-house, but basically that is really the minimal amount to get some utility out of the interior space that would accommodate animal control, as well as some additional improvements for storage. We're using that building now for substantial storage and other activities. If we do not do at least the exterior work, that building needs to come down. We did have Tecton do work in their study to estimate the cost of demolition. The demolition cost, depending on what we want to remain on the site, would be anywhere from
I think
260.
we said like 600 and something, if I recall from the meeting. Right?
Well, it's going to range. So the low side of the estimate is 264,000, and that is just to leave us a build-ready site, and so dirt. If we wanted any parking or landscape or anything to put the site into further use, it could go up to 800,000. We would anticipate we'd be somewhere in the middle because we do have some existing infrastructure in that building for IT. It would require engineering. It potentially could, well, it definitely will require some environmental testing, and that could result in additional costs. So we would plan on a budget for demolition of well over 500,000.
Oh,
What we're trying to do, John, is really preserve the ability to make a decision on that building in the future and get some use out of it in the meantime.
Yeah,
okay,
John,
I
just
understand, and I kind of agree. It's just that, the figures are piling up, but, I was in touch with Christina and said she had some concerns, so I just wanted you to go over it again.
yeah, John,
Yep.
appreciate that. I appreciate you bringing it up. That was, if I'm recalling correctly, I'm pretty sure I am, when we had the discussions around it. There were a few folks who definitely had a similar question around it or concerns around it. I think where we came out as a group, I know where I came out was we just can't keep kicking this can down the road because it's a problem not just for the community as an eyesore and whatnot, but we're not going to be able to use it down the road. So we're in essence, if we don't do something now, if we don't do anything, we're leaving ourselves a bigger problem to fund down in years future. So, but I know this one, and we've got a couple hands here I'll turn to in a second.
No,
I know this one
I
was
agree.
considered,
I
so.
understand. I
So
understand.
totally, I think it's good. I think that I'd love to hear from the other folks on this. And again, just for newer folks on the committee, when we get to the end, if there are certain items that folks don't feel comfortable voting for, and we want to pull one, two, three, four, five, whatever it is, out of the total plan and vote those separately, so we have a clear record of who's in favor of what, we can do that as well. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that piece of it. But
Okay.
um,
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Mike.
yeah, no, thank you for the question, John. Let's Jamie, go ahead.
Sorry, you can't see me. Something's wrong with my computer. So it's not, that's why you get that lock symbol instead of my face. I guess my question is, why can't we just go with that bare bones 260,000 to take down the building and start fresh with whatever comes up in this Tecton report later on? Why do we have to go with the middle of the road demolition? Because yeah, I feel like we're slapping some lipstick on a pig here. So I just want to understand why we wouldn't do like, let's start fresh. So when that bigger report comes out and money comes from different places and whatnot, we could just not be putting a ton of money into something that's not in great condition.
Tom, does your question kind of build on that, or would you like me to address that?
You can address that.
Okay. So really the biggest reason is we are probably at a minimum 2 years away from knowing the direction that the town is going to have to take to address long-term space needs. When we get the Tecton report, that's really just kind of the start of developing the long-term plan. We still have to incorporate all the information from the SMMA report from 2023, update that. We have to pull in information from our, infrastructure, IT needs, vehicles, all that. So there's a long process to really build out the long-term plan. What we need ultimately out of either that site or any of the options that Tecton has is additional space. But what you'll see when the report is ultimately delivered is we have an enormous amount of deferred maintenance on buildings. Absolutely enormous amount of deferred maintenance. We have zero plans at present to address space needs at all, short of just basically fixing everything that we've kicked down the road for so many years. So we are at least 2 years away from a point where we will legitimately talk about addressing space needs. And that really is going to hinge on what happens with the Robinson School feasibility study. So that will bring up the potential to use Abbott as space needs. So we don't know what we're going to ultimately do with the property at 51 Main. After we get to the point where we have an idea where we might go, we are probably still 5 years beyond that point from actually being able to implement something to address some significant and substantial space needs that we have today. So that's 7 years down the road before we are going to do anything meaningful around renovations or expansions of either town hall, Abbott, or anything like that. In the meantime, we've got some short-term space needs that we can address with this. This frees up a little bit of space in town hall. It lets us continue to use that space. Because like I said, if we don't address the building envelope issues, we need to take that building down. It is being used right now to store police vehicles. It is used to store all of the equipment and chairs and stuff for signage and events and everything else we do out on the common. And we also really do need to address the animal control issue, which is a really small amount of funding just to deal with that small space in there. There's benefit to getting bodies in that building. I think anybody who's tried to manage a portfolio of buildings knows that the most dangerous thing is to have a vacant building and not have people in it every day putting their hands on it and observing conditions. So there's value to us to get somebody in that space if for no other reason than a caretaker status. So I hope that helps to understand why we wouldn't be able to jump right in.
Well, I guess my point was, why
staff.
aren't we just knocking it? Like, I don't want it to exist, I guess. So if the bottom dollar amount of demo is $260,000 and it leaves us with nothing and not an eyesore, not anything, why wouldn't we just do that? And then that's, I guess, my point. That I understand what you're saying, that if the building still exists, money has to go into it. But I'm saying if $260,000 eliminates the building and all of the issues, I think that's worth it to wait the 2 years, in my opinion. Again, that I agree. I can understand why this is in other people's opinion, but in my opinion, to have that gone, and then in 2 years, when you find out where the space things are, I mean, nothing is fast. We know that, right?
Yeah,
All of
Jamie,
these projects.
I can help you address that a little bit, and Mike, fill in if you need to. So we feel that we do not have any spaces available in town for winter police cruiser storage. We haven't built a parking, cover for them to have storage. We don't have storage available for animal control. We use this building now. If anyone went to the veterans event, it was a very cold day. They used that building for the veterans event. We've been using it for town training and town events. So I see knocking the building down, yes, is an option, and town meeting can make that option or not. But we also have a viable need for this building and this structure. It's a well-built structure, but it does need maintenance in order to be on our building roll into the future.
I would expand on that. I think Kristen made excellent points. That building, as it is, at least in its structural form, may have significant value in our portfolio down the road. If it depends on what happens with Abbott, we may be able to renovate that building and use the existing structure, which is in good shape. So I don't think we want to take that asset completely off the table. And plus, I would say, as I mentioned with the demo estimate, 264 doesn't get it done. 264 is our low end of the estimate. That leaves us with a pile of dirt. We would have to do something with that, which involves either paving it or landscaping it. Plus, we really would have to actually engineer that demo because there are a number of infrastructure assets that are running through it. So I would definitely budget closer to 500,000 to demolish that building, unless we knew exactly what was getting built on it and were prepared to pull the trigger on building on it. And anything we build on, it's going to be based on trying to meet any of our space needs, a minimum of $10,000 to $15,000, if not more, or $15 million, if not significantly more. And we don't know what that amount is until we know what we're doing with Abbott. Tom, did you have anything you wanted to add to that? I know you've kind of been on the side of this one as well.
Yeah, well, oh, which Tom?
Either one.
Go ahead. Go ahead,
right.
Tom.
Thank you. So I do think, so it sounds like we need to put a request forward for funding. But I'm wondering if this is actually a case of two different articles, one or the other type thing. I understand there's uses of this building. It sounds like some of these have been added uses, like the winter storage of vehicles. That was never in existence before the the new fire station open. So that's uh, a, a slippery justification. I do think there are other short-term storage solutions out there. We use them at the schools all the time. We have containers all over the place for storage needs. Not the best solution, but I do think that presenting options at town meeting for a vote is would be what I would like to see. And I think you'd get a clear direction from that.
Tom W., did you have a comment?
Yeah, this whole thing has been very contentious, the use of 51 Main. I do think that Mike saying, I forget, 260 some odd thousand for demolition is a bit of a red herring because that doesn't get you to anywhere. It doesn't get you to grass, it doesn't get you to pavement. And you're saying stuff goes through there so that in order to get to, say, grass, you're saying it would be really around $500,000, right?
Yes, that's what
That would be our guess, is somewhere in the middle of the high and the low range would be kind of our absolute bare minimum.
Well, I think to get this to a point where we can make rational, we may have to come up with that real number. Is, to get it to grass, that's this number. To get it to pavement, it is this number. I do agree we need to do something here. I personally think the 330,000, excuse me, 330,000 is a reasonable number to keep that building in the inventory for the next 7 years or whatever it is that we're thinking about till we understand what's going to go on. But I think part of the squishiness over the alternatives, I think, is causing grief here. So we
I
might,
understand. I think, Chris, and I'll defer to you on how you want to handle it. My suggestion, because I think there are folks who support it who aren't raising theirs, which makes sense, right? Because when we went through it before, but I think we pull this one out at the end, Kristen, and we can vote on it separately. And if we don't have a full approval vote or a quorum that wants to include this on the plan, then maybe we talk about other options or presenting it separately. Does that sound good to you, Kristen, or do you want to handle it another way?
No, it seems like pulling this out as a separate vote makes the most sense because we've had a lot of conversation and there's still a lot of questions.
So let's do that. We'll make it a separate vote at the end when we talk through the plan. And if there isn't enough support for it in total, then we'll move forward on what the next steps are around this one. Okay.
All right.
Not
We keep
seeing any
going,
other
Paul.
hands on this one, but guys, that's and I don't mean to slow down the conversation or stop the conversation. Obviously, if there's more feelings, we'll continue further on it. I think that's the purpose of this committee. So I appreciate all sides of this of the discussion on 51 Main. So Dan, why don't we keep going?
Sounds good. All right. So still in public buildings, we had the Westford Museum and ADA upgrades. If that moves forward, it's going to be a CPA application. So just an impact CPA, not this capital budget per se. We have the NAB fire station generator for 22K, the Cameron sprinkler dry valve. We got the 30 Beacon Street roof replacement, which I have earmarked here to be bonded. We have the Frost fire escape, the boiler Jeff just spoke about, the lighting upgrades, and the old NAB fire escape. All these are earmarked to be paid from through the maintenance revolving fund. Tom, you got a question?
Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, just a question. So would we be voting on this if it's going to select board next week, or is it being pulled from this request?
It's part of the capital plan, so we can include it in there. It doesn't hurt to support it, or if we're dead set against it for some reason to vote that way. But I don't see any pushback on this one.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted clarification. Thank you.
Great. So we have those 4 items. we spoke earlier about the fire alarm control panel at the DPW. Jeff's going to get more information on that next week, and once we get that, we can send it out to the capital committee, and we can reconsider that in January if need be. And then for the town hall, the roof slate restoration, we earmarked that as a potential CPA project as well. Moving down to police, we had the radios that the chief requested last week. I don't think that was very contentious. With fire, we have the thermal imaging cameras and then the replacement officer vehicle. So with the cameras, 3 of those are going to go into the ambulances. So we're going to use ambulance retained earnings for those 3. And then for the vehicle, it's just a scheduled replacement. All right, not seeing any hands there. Into the schools, we have the truck. Tom?
Tom?
I'm confused. Back up on the cameras, the thermal.
Sure.
You said 3 of them were going into the ambulance and 1 wasn't?
I think there's 10 cameras being purchased. They're
fine.
replacing all of them.
Okay.
So
Okay, never mind.
that would be confusing if it was 1 and 3. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sorry, misunderstood.
Nice
Thank
stuff.
you.
All right, back to the schools. We have the scheduled replacement for the plow truck. We have the fire alarm replacement upgrades, which seem to be causing a lot of issues with the schools and the fire department. The sewer line, we don't have to fund at this point, so we're going to back that out. We'll put that at 0. Still working on the WA roof, the HVAC and all that. I'm sure that will evolve over time before town meeting. I don't know if there are any questions now at this point or if we exhausted that last week. But there will be updates, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Jeff is nodding, so okay. We have the Kubota tractor for the snow and ice operations for the schools. Getting down to engineering here. We have the Littleton Road widening project. We did meet with DPW earlier this week, and there is a $500,000 grant there, but the quote for the project came in at $995,000. So I think the safe route to go at this point is to authorize a bond in the full amount. Then we'll use the grant funds first, and then we'll draw down the debt money and then just bond the net. So it's probably going to be about a $650,000 cost. There could be other money coming in from mitigation that we would use first too, but I think it's simpler just to make sure we have that whole authorization up there. Next, we have the Pleasant Street and Patton Road sidewalk. That's would be a non-excluded bond, and as Jeremy said, we're not planning on using mitigation funds for this project at this point. And then we have the assessment of the town-owned bridges for $85,000. All right, moving on. We have our Chapter 90 pavement management program. That's completely self-funded out of Chapter 90. We just authorized the funds at town meeting and sort of a blanket article. It's usually on the consent agenda. Then we have 3 vehicles for DPW, the front end loader, the 6-wheel dump, and the wheeled excavator. All right. Going to stormwater, we have culvert design for Jeremy, I'm blanking, or Kyle or Lori, I'm blanking on which ones these are for.
That'd be for Old Homestead Road and Long Meadow Road.
That's right, okay. Thank you. We have construction for the Boutwell Brook. So the design, we would just appropriate retained earnings. The Boutwell will issue bonds for to be repaid through stormwater. And then we have Jeremy's robotic equipment for surveying. All right. Moving on to water. The backhoe, Mark just gave us an update. We reduced the request by 24,000, so it's at 151. The replacement of the high head and backwash pumps. We do have some water capital projects that were previously bonded that have a balance that we could transfer to offset this. and that could help us avoid actually issuing bonds for this project. I think we have enough in retained earnings to cover it. So we have over 300 grand that could help offset this amount. So we'll probably just use retained earnings and simplify the process a bit. Then we have the Nutting Road dehumidifiers as well. See, moving down to DPW, the Frost, Rodenbush, and tennis court replacement, that would be a CPA request. The CPA had asked Kyle to bring it back at a future date. He did present that a couple of years ago. We also have the Granville Ball Field safety improvements. This is for design. There would be a future request for the actual construction. Again, that'll be a CPA application. And then we have the Jack Walsh Fields parking improvements. I'm not sure this qualifies as CPA, but we have a list of projects that we're going to send them and check with legal to make sure one way or another. So for right now, I have this in as free cash because it's a parking lot, but we will definitely check and make sure that it does or doesn't qualify for CPA funding. And that's all. That's the entire list. That's all we got.
Good job, Dan. You want to summarize where that brings us then with all those recommendations and where the funding comes from?
Sure. I'm gonna do a quick cheat here just to get us the total. Give me 2 seconds. We'll have this wrapped up.
Take your time, Dan.
Oops. I don't like all the red there. Let's get rid of the color. Okay, so with the changes made today, we dropped it by from 3749 to 3721. Free cash, that number is a little bit high. Just heading in, it's not horrible. And that doesn't include the DPW pumps at this point in time. So I don't know what the committee feels moving forward. If we want to stick with this number for now and readjust it in January, just so we have something for the budget as a placeholder. And as we get more information, we can refine this decision. But this is kind of right on the upper end of where we want to be.
I think so, Dan. I mean, that would be my thought would be to keep it there, and then we can adjust in January as we need. Just given if we're still comfortable, even though it's on the upper end, if we're still comfortable that it's within the boundaries of where we need to be. Not hearing anybody complain about or question any of the other things to be pulled out, I think it makes sense, but I'll listen to the committee as well. Jamie?
I just have a question on like when you say it's on the upper end, what is the typical, like what's the average that you guys typically?
So it depends on our starting free cash balance. So this year we started with about 6.3. We're at 6 right now. We want to end somewhere in the 2s at year end, so we have some cushion heading into next year. And it's part of the select board policy to have at least 5% reserves heading in. So basically, the more we don't spend this year, the better shape
The
we are
better,
in next
yeah.
year. And
Okay.
it's just mitigating risk. That's all.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Tom?
Just to get information out there, can you summarize how this would impact the budget process, decisions on other departmental spending, things like that?
Do you mean like the bonding, Tom?
No, so I know I guess, because we have, some of this does go against the overall budget, the tax rate,
Mhm.
all that. So, what would be, how would that impact other department requests that are going to be coming?
Okay. So the line here, the non-excluded debt totals, there's 4 projects in there, which I provide another sheet in the packet to kind of summarize these. And this is paid through tax money within the levy, so it does have an impact. However, we're not going to see that impact till FY28 based on the timing of these projects. So the senior center at 1.2 million over a 20-year bond will be about 87,000. The 30 Beacon Street at a 10-year will be about 61,000 a year. the Littleton Road widening, wherever that fleshes out, I think we'll have a debt payment, based on the net excluded. That's our best guess at this moment. And then the sidewalk will be about 61,000, over a 20-year period. So the impact to FY 28 is going to be $279,000 towards the operating budget that we need to fund. And that will change.
John?
So, if it's an increase of 279K down, is there anything that's rolling off, or is this purely an addition?
We have a lot of debt that's changing on and off, so we have a whole schedule that we could share with you. Yes, there is debt falling off, but there's also more debt coming on that's been authorized already. So I could share that with the committee if anybody's interested.
Well, I mean, certainly the finance committee is probably interested, but
FinCom will be, yes, but
Yeah, we usually don't, John. It's a good question, but again, it's kind of that catch 22.
yeah, we can leave that
That's
for the
not,
FinCom. That's
it's not our purview, right?
Yep.
To figure the funding sources, but we do take it into consideration. So I think it's fine if you want to see it.
Understood. Thank you.
Mhm. Folks, any other questions, comments? Yeah, Tom.
So the only other one that gives me pause is the tennis courts. And I know that CPC, so it's different funding. But I'm just curious if there's other projects that have been considered that are not being brought forward because of that amount. So I'm just kind of making sure we're looking at the best use of the funds across the town at this point. Because I know deferred maintenance is on all of our infrastructure, buildings, and recreational areas. So, yeah, I just wonder on that one.
Yeah, I don't want to speak for Parks, Tom. We can certainly circle back on that with them, but with the way that they actually rank with priority and whatnot, there wouldn't be, right? That's the purpose of this and the long-term kind of plan is to prioritize the needs. So if they've presented this as their need, it should be a hopping ahead of anything else. But Kyle, go ahead. Did you have something on that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Paul. I was going to kind of echo what you just said, that the Rodenbush Court project was the top priority for the Park and Rec Commission this year. So that's why we included it.
Yep. Thank you, Kyle. John, what's up?
Yeah, Dan, I wanted to ask you about the excluded debt total, showing that is part of this year's amount. Somebody looking at this is going to say, whoa, that's a high number. Do you have a kind of a plan for how that would lay out as far as the impact of the budget over time?
We plugged in the model. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. But yeah, it's 24 million is a big ask. I think that's on the higher side, the one-to-one replacement. So as we get more refined numbers in there, I think we can start to spell out the impact to the average household and whatnot. I haven't done that exercise yet because it's not a final number.
Okay, yeah. As far as looking at the excluded debt layout over the coming years, if you've got that, I'd like to see that. If you have a chance to update that.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions, folks, comments, concerns? Jared, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. No real comments, questions, or concerns on my end. The only thing was just so when we talk at the end, it's going to be for everything except for the 51 Main Street, correct?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jared. Right now, that's my intent. Before I ask for a vote supporting the plan, I'm gonna for sure pull out 51 Main from the initial vote and we'll vote on it separate. But I'll ask the committee will all get an opportunity to tell me if they want anything else pulled as well. So yes, and I guess. So I'm gonna go with that. And if there is, Jared, if anybody does want something else pulled to vote separately, we'll vote on that separately as well. We won't call them together. It'll be individual votes for anything else that people feel
Perfect.
strongly
Thank
that
you.
we need. Yeah. It's a good question. Anybody else before, my intent then after this will be to move us towards, a vote on these items. So please, if you have any other thoughts or questions, I'll give a minute for folks to raise their hands or to jump out. I'm not seeing anything in the chat either. We have one attendee out there, but I'm not seeing anything else we need to address, so. So yeah, so let's, the next order of business will be to move towards a vote. Before I do that, we will pull the 51 main funding out and, suggest the plan otherwise. Does anybody have any other items that they would like to have, voted on separately before we do that? I'm not seeing any hands. All right, can I get a motion to approve the recommendations to Kristen for, the capital plan for fiscal year 27 as presented here, excluding the funding on the 51 main item?
So moved.
Thank you, John. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Dan, for the second. I'm gonna do a roll call for, for votes. I'm seeing something on school committee. Okay, sure enough. So. Okay, I'm a yes. Dan,
Yes.
Kristen, Tom W,
Yes.
John C.
Yes.
John, you're voting
I'm
for
voting
you and
for
Christina,
Christine,
correct?
yeah. So it's a yes.
Thank you. Tom L,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Dr. Chu,
Yes.
thank you. Jared.
Yes.
Terrific. All right, so that passes unanimously, these recommendations. Thank you. Let's move to a vote on 51 Main. I think we heard the concerns. I'm open to any more conversation around it if anybody would like. Mike's already jumping out in front before we talk about it, so I'll go to Mike, and then if anybody else on the committee has anything else they'd like to talk about before we move to a vote on 51 specifically, and the funding there, we'll do that. So, Mike, would you?
Simply I did confirm, just looking back at notes and some email exchanges with the architect regarding or I believe it was Tom's comment on needing to dial in the demo cost. So that high end, that 764 figure, that is basically a minimally landscaped or minimally paved site estimate. So the middle of the road really is what we would want to budget for a demolition without having the benefit of a full engineering review of the building to determine the exact specifications for demolition as well as termination of any utilities and movement of anything. If we feel that we need a further dialed in demolition figure, that will require engaging a design professional to come in and basically figure out everything that goes in and out of that building and exactly how it has to be demolished. So really to kind of put the demo in context, if you want that site returned to a useful status, it is the high end of the estimate. If you simply want it wiped and have a build-ready site, you're pretty much in the middle of that amount. So I hope that clarifies what the
That's helpful color, Mike. Yeah,
what
that's
the
definitely
demo
helpful. Thank you.
would be.
Yep. Thank you. Jamie, what do you got?
I know I'm beating a dead horse here, but I'm gonna keep going and
Well, you're doing it
people can
behind a hidden
disagree.
screen too. So having
I know exactly. You
block
can't even see
picture,
my face to tell
yeah, it helps.
to, you
It
know,
helps,
really
yeah.
be mad at me. But a couple things, and Tom mentioned it. 51 Main Street was a fire station, so all of the things that have been done there recently were never done there before, correct? Like we weren't hosting Veterans Day there, we weren't storing all the stuff there. We were storing things elsewhere, correct?
Wait a minute. We did host Veterans Days there back in the aughts.
And there could potentially be an option to give them a heated space, maybe using Rodenbush's gym, which is not much further down the road, right?
I I just said that we did use the fire station when it was a fire station for Veterans Day.
No, and I totally understand that. I'm just asking if a different space could be utilized for that. Like when we're talking about how this is a useful space for us currently, could the Veterans Day thing be moved? All of the school buildings are open, but I imagine they want to be close to the town center, right? So Road and Bush would be would be where I would suggest to go if for some reason that building at 51 Main Street weren't there. Is that a potential option?
Well, I
Or
mean,
not?
we have no control over the gym at Rodenbush. That is space that is leased to an outside entity. That is their space.
Right.
So
Yes.
we could certainly ask, but again, they're not, as it, we have
There's no
attempted,
requirement for them to give it to you.
there is no requirement for them to give it to us, and we've been working with them really over the last year to try to use that gym and additional spaces and for various recreation programs, for community wellness programs, and quite frankly, it's not feasible to look at that space for town use because they have it programmed heavily.
Okay.
And so, yes, are there opportunities to use space elsewhere for an event once or twice a year? Certainly. No options available for storage. I know the question had been mentioned about container storage. I'm not sure exactly how we use that for vehicles. And certainly, do we want containers in the middle of town? Where do we find locations for things like that? So there's always options. All of those other options are going to cost time and money. And if we want to pursue those, that's the
Yeah, but I think as Tom pointed out, those vehicles weren't stored when it was the fire station. So that's a new thing that's happening, which is fine, but it's not something that was past practice. So I guess I'm just saying all the things that are stored in there now, besides the vehicle, like including the vehicles, they weren't stored there before. When it was a fire station, they were stored elsewhere. Is that correct or incorrect?
They were stored in a parking lot or they were stored, yes, elsewhere. But
Elsewhere.
again, the elsewhere in most cases was actually the Town Farm Road property. Or Kristen, I'm not sure if I've got that correct, but the other properties that we really no longer have access to. So yes, there's probably options to parcel out storage elsewhere, but you're talking about animal control. Their building effectively over on Beacon Street is no longer usable, and we're looking at taking it down because it is completely out of service. So that space is completely off the table. We've essentially maxed out all of our available facilities at Beacon Street, especially with the plans that we have for.
Okay, so there's
fixing
potentially
that.
nowhere for this stuff to go, but it was stored elsewhere prior to
Or it didn't
when it
exist.
was a fire station.
Yes, or it didn't exist.
Um,
And again, Mike Dennehy can probably speak to what happened in that facility prior to fire leaving that facility. But since that facility has been available, it has been used for storage, which has been since, Mike, when did you guys go live? 2018?
Yeah, that's correct.
So, you're talking 26 years it's been put into use for storage. So, yes, used to
2008
26 years ago.
Okay.
So,
2018 wasn't
oh, I'm sorry, 6 years
26 years
ago.
ago.
Yeah, we did not have places that we were storing police vehicles inside.
Okay. And then in addition to that, I guess I'm just got to go back to this whole demo thing, but are you saying that it's going to cost like $240,000 plus to put filling grass down on like, I don't know, is it 4,500 square foot footprint roughly?
Let me pull up the estimate here real quick. So yeah, we're 16,000, let's see, square footage wise. Let me do the math here because they didn't give me an actual square footage. Jeff, do you have the square footage of that facility by chance?
Off the top of my head, I do not have it handy on me right now.
Okay,
give me 1 minute.
6,600 square feet. I've got that here, and that's just the building itself. So what we're looking at would be the basic demolition at about $40 a foot, doing anything useful with the site. So either paving it, soil and sod, and any other, soil compaction or anything that needs to be done would push us up around the $120 a foot range. So again, without the benefit of an engineering or art, a design professional coming in and actually developing design and construction documents and providing estimates, all we can provide at this point is an estimate based on historical costs.
Okay, I guess it just still leaves a lot of room open for a lot of questions that I have, and I think it will be the same at town meeting, but I guess we will approach that as it comes. Yeah. All right, thanks.
Thanks, Jamie. John?
So I guess in my mind, I think Mike, you've answered this partly. The question in my mind is, we're going to get this Tectron report, which I guess is going to tell us the state of town facilities, but before we can come up with a plan, it's still 2 years out. That's if I heard that correctly. That's one question. Second thing is, given the space needs of the various departments in the town, do we have spare space available? Or are we kind of out of space and we're going to have to do something irrespective of what we do with this building? But if we keep it, it's going to give us some extra space at, well, let's say, for want of a better description, relatively low cost.
Yeah, well, I'll take the first question, which is really around the capital planning process itself. So the Tecton study was limited to 10 buildings, 10 town buildings. So what it's giving us is essentially space needs based on where we are right now and where we want to go with our operational needs for the departments that occupy those 10 buildings. So it is a smaller subset of our entire facility portfolio. What it is also giving us is, based on age of equipment and condition of equipment, the prioritized list that is recommended by the architect. Now, as Jeff and I have worked through the draft documents that we've seen, that's a number that is up here in terms of all the deferred maintenance. So effectively what you're seeing in Jeff's request now are the highest priority items that they have identified. Once we get that full report, which I should have the final draft, for review this week or early next, and we plan to present that to the board and PTBC shortly thereafter, is just those 10 buildings, along with those ideas for meeting the space needs. We then have to go back and place not only resource constraints on those, because it is completely unconstrained by resources. It is what they recommend we do. We know we cannot afford that, so we know that we are going to have to reprioritize things. But we are also going to have to pull in all the details from the SMMA report, which is all the school buildings, the study on the Cameron, the ADA accessibility report that has all of the access deficiencies on all of our buildings, parks, etc. We've got the museum study to pull into that. Then we also need to incorporate all the non-building items, which are vehicles, IT, infrastructure, and everything else, and kind of pull all that stuff together. Now that is going to take us time. I've said from the beginning of this CIP process that we are going to get an incomplete picture from just the facilities piece. So we've got another year or two before we really have the entire picture of everything the town needs for the next 10 years that we'll be able to build out. So that kind of puts it in context of where this Tecton report fits. It is a subset of buildings. The biggest single unknown outside of needing to take all of that prior information and update it for all the things that have happened in the last 2 years since we received those reports. But the biggest single thing is what happens with Robinson. That opens up a lot of different things. It opens up reuse of Abbott. Depending on if they look at a different site for Robinson, it potentially opens up Robinson. It opens up a lot of opportunities for how we address our space needs. Now, what we are looking at over those 2 years while we're waiting is essentially, I think we believe that we are not fully 100% making the best use of our spaces. And we want to address that by identifying efficiencies and pursuing this digitization process. That will help us to make sure, we know that we can't afford new space at this point. We have to take care of the space that we have, but we need to address in the meantime the things we know we need to do to maximize the amount of space that we have under roof right now. This 51 main process gives us at least a little bit of space and lets us move a little bit of the needle on that, very small, but lets us better utilize town hall. And it helps us to address, for animal control specifically, the fact that their building is no longer occupiable. They're operating out of their vehicles right now. They are storing things in their homes. That's not a sustainable way for us to move that service forward for the level of service that the town desires. We now need, I recognize we did not necessarily identify this as a priority need 6 years ago, but we do need indoor storage for vehicles. We need indoor storage for materials that are used for the common and for celebrations and events. So we are getting use out of 51 Main by keeping it in service, and we're preserving, and this I think is the most important thing, is we are preserving the decision for what we're going to do with 51 Main until we know what's going to happen with Robinson, because it is still a good structure and it is still a usable structure for us. So I hope that helps a little bit.
Yes, Mike, thanks. I mean, I remember it's a reiteration of what you said, I think, at the last meeting, and I very much appreciate that. So, okay, I mean, if I can summarize what I think I heard is the Tectron report's going to give us a lot of information about a lot of things. All right, relative to this particular discussion on 51 Main, when we get the preliminary report, we'll at least get some idea of the usage on the existing buildings that we have within the town. And, the fact of the matter is, we're kind of out of space, particularly with animal control, of nowhere to go. All right. And it's unlikely that the Tectron report's going to reveal something that says, hey, you've got a bunch of space here and we can put animal control there. So we're kind of, again, a bit between a rock and a hard place in terms of needing space, at least in the short term.
Yeah, John, we're absolutely out of space. That is one of the reasons to bringing the digitization effort that you heard from me last time. But we do not want to build new at this point in time. We don't think that that is responsible for the town. We want to use every square footage of space that we currently have. And this is an effort to revitalize that space and use that.
Okay, no, I understand, and thank you very much for that. I've kind of got a clearer picture, I think, now.
Thanks, John. Tom.
So
Oh, go ahead.
I certainly appreciate the need for space. So as I'm thinking about this, we've mentioned deferred maintenance and whatnot. So keeping this building online is great, except the 330 is not the end of it, because there is then maintenance on that building as well. So it helps
Right.
compound that.
Yeah.
So I would also not be, how do I say this? Okay, so it's almost more of a risk in my mind, to go to town meeting with just the one plan of the reuse and not the option of a vote on a demo for a town to make a decision. Because I think the biggest risk is that we bring this to town meeting as just the rehab and reuse and have it fail there. And then next year, that 330 has escalated further, right? So I almost think it's less responsible to not give the option. So I'm in support of funding being brought to town meeting as part of the capital, but I think the option needs to be given, and the data to the voters.
Appreciate that comment, Tom.
Tom
I'll leave
Laslam,
that
I
to
also just want
Kristen
to,
and Dan, but
I also think that we would want to get the opinion of the Permanent Town Building Committee. They've been coming along with us, and Tom Wimberg can talk to that, but they are the experts related to, in addition to Jeff Goodwin and his staff and our staff. We would want their full picture recommendation as well on how to proceed.
That's a great point, Kristen. Jared, go ahead. Tom, I'll get to you in a second, but Jared, go ahead.
Yep, thank you. So I guess when I kind of think about it, right, is even if you did choose to, you know, let's say tear the building down, you're not really going to be using the space, and those same groups are not going to have the necessary resources that they maybe need to provide the support that we need for the town. So as much as I think the building someday will have some sort of either demolition or some sort of repurposing or fixing up, I feel like having that asset under maintenance, there's more benefits to having that than versus not having it right now. And so that's just kind of my take for it. So at the moment, I would probably vote in favor of this. I do think the messaging needs to be cleaned up a little bit for how it's presented to the town, just so it's not as confusing. Like, they're going to ask you questions about how much is it going to cost to put grass? How many people are going to support the grass? What's it going to be like with parking lot? Like, the more questions you can answer and simplify in the initial statement is going to make it easier for people to digest.
Good point, Jared. Thank you. Tom W.
Just looking at the price tag on this and the fact that we can do it out of free cash, this keeps this building viable, and as Mike keeps emphasizing, it has good bones. And looking at the amount that it costs even to do an engineering study on things, this is much less than it would cost even to do an engineering study on the building, probably. I don't want to speak for the entire Permanent Town Building Committee. I know we already had a interesting 51 Main Street proposal before, but this is a fairly inexpensive compared to other alternatives for keeping the options as open as we can. And to be honest, the Robinson School Committee thing is not, it's kind of 5-7 years out. So having this as a shell that could be reused later isn't a bad thing, and this isn't a bad price for that.
Thank you, Tom. Anybody else on this item? I think it's a good discussion. I appreciate all the points. Jared, go ahead.
I was just going to say I agree with those points. I thought that was a pretty good statement.
Thank you. Okay. I do want to note that Shauna noted in the chat that she seems agreeing with Jamie on her take on 51. So well, Shauna, you're right. Tom will be vote on behalf of the school committee. I do want to get your thoughts on there. So it's in the chat if anybody wants to see it, but her point is that she agrees with Jamie on this item. All right, folks, anybody else on this, or else I'm going to move to for a vote on this item to recommend from capital. All right, Dan, just for clarification, just to be totally clear, can you pull that one item up on the screen to show 51 Main, the exact source? I mean, the exact amount?
Sure. Give me 1 second here.
Yeah, take your time.
It's $330,000 coming from free cash.
Okay, so I'm going to ask for a motion to approve this recommendation specifically and only on 51 Main Street for the 330,000 from free cash for stabilization in the reuse project.
So moved.
Thank you, John. Have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Tom. All right, I'm going to go through a roll call and just yay or nay, please, as we go through. So I'm a yes. Dan?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Tom W?
Yes.
John C?
Yes.
John F?
Yes.
Tom L?
No.
Okay. Jamie?
No.
Dr. Chu?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Okay, so vote passes 8 in favor, 2 against. For the minutes. Sure, you could have got there yourself, but I'll just summarize it to make it easier. Thank you, guys. And thank you for the discussion. Especially for the newer members, every year there's items like this. And I think, again, it's our recommendations to Kristen as to what to bring forward. But these discussions and the back and forth and everybody's opinions, even sometimes when it's against the grain, I think are very important. So I do appreciate everybody speaking out and speaking their minds. It's a good representation for the town, and that's what this committee provides, and provides that guidance to Kristen and Dan as they're putting the plan together. So thank you specifically on the conversation on that one. I think that was very healthy. Okay, well, that is the meat of the meeting. Let me just go through the few other things we have to accomplish, but we've gotten through that pretty well. So I appreciate everybody's help with that. So let's just go with the approval of the minutes from November 7th. I have gone through them. I do not have any major comments or concerns. Does anybody have any major comments or questions on the minutes? And if not, can I get a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Now all right, I'll go through the roll call again real quick. I'm a yes. Dan?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Tom W?
Yes.
John C?
Yes.
John F?
Yes.
Tom L?
Yes.
Jamie?
Yes.
Dr. Chu?
Yes.
Jared?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, guys, that's that. So let's talk old business, future meetings, and next steps here. We have, Dan, it looks like we've scheduled that meeting for, you already put it on the calendar?
We throw out a date of January 30th, so we can talk about it to see if anybody has a conflict that day. It's a Friday morning.
January 30th, okay. Does that look okay to the group? For me so far, right off the bat, it looks fine. It's another Friday morning, correct, Dan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's far enough out. Anybody know of? And if things pop up in the future, you can always let us know. And if we have to adjust, we will. But does anybody know of that not working for them?
No. Looks good to me.
Okay. All right. Like I said, let's pencil that in. We'll go through at that point any changes, any updates to the recommendations, anything new that comes in. Like we said, things tend to shift and change. Sometimes we get different quotes. There's a few things in there, like we said, that were placeholders that we're waiting for. So that will be that. Dan, we can also, if we want, at that meeting, we can vote on chair and vice chair if we feel ready for it. I mentioned a few meetings ago to the committee, but if anybody has the want or desire for the chair or vice chair, don't laugh, John. Don't laugh. Does that mean you want it? It's all yours. I'll vote for you. I'll vote you in. Don't laugh. I would be happy to talk to anybody. I'm sure Dan would as well, or Kristen. If you have any thoughts or designs, if you'd like to operate in those roles. No pride of ownership from me and Dan. I'm speaking for Dan, but very happy to talk to anybody that thinks that they would like to sit in these seats. Very open to it. So, and I'll talk to Kristen about that as well and just our thoughts as well. So. Please keep that in mind. Like I'm serious. Please reach out to me if it's something you think you'd like to know or like to know even more about, or just talk about it. If it's not for this year, it's for next year or down the road or anything. I'm happy to give you all the color on it. So we'll do that. Dan, anything else major that I'm missing that we need to address either right now or prep people for the next January 30th meeting?
I think that's about it right now. As we get information, we'll be sure to send it out to the committee so you have it in real time. But yeah, it was a good season.
Yeah, it was very good. I appreciate each and every one of you taking the time. It's not easy, especially on a Friday morning. This has historically been a tremendous committee going back as far as I can remember. And I really do feel privileged to work with all of you, and I appreciate everybody's help and time and commitment to the town to help with this stuff. I think it's obviously, I think what we do is very, very important, and I appreciate each and every one of you for helping with it. To the new members this year, I thought you guys were all great, terrific additions. I enjoyed the conversations. I import the dialogue and the opinions and thoughts. So thank you very much. And just thank you all for putting this together. Again, we'll have another meeting, but this was really the meat of our role this year to get through these recommendations for Kristen for town meeting. So before I look for a motion to adjourn, Kristen, you got anything you want to address with the committee?
Not that I was planning. Is there anything I should have remembered?
Nope, not at all. I just wanted
All
to
right.
make sure I'm not missing anything. Just as long as you and Dan have what you guys need from us.
Yeah, we're in good shape. Thank you.
Okay.
And thank you all for your participation.
Yeah.
Good results from good leadership.
Yeah. This is
Thank
good. I
you,
appreciate
Paul.
it. This is a great committee. Yeah, thanks, John. All right. Well, I'm going to give you guys like 40 minutes of your day back. So I know that's the most important thing that I provide to everybody is time. I'm going to take my dog for a walk personally. So hope you all do something enjoyable with your 40 minutes that I'm giving you back. And with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, John.
Second.
Thanks, Dan. I'm a yes. Dan,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Tom W,
Yes.
John C,
Yes.
John F,
Yes.
Tom L,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Dr. Chu,
Yes.
and Jared.
Yes.
Awesome. That's it. And everybody enjoy your weekend. And thank you again.
Thank you,
Really
Paul.
appreciate it.
Bye all.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.